Continuing our series of lectures on argumentation for AP English Language and Composition, this is lecture 7 on conclusion. We're going to talk about how to end the essay. So these questions, of course, you've seen them before: what, how, and why, and here's what they represent now. What fresh language can you use to summarize what you've been talking about? You've already said what you were going to say in the intro. Then you said it in the body. You can't just tell me again what you said. So you got to come up with a fresh way of looking at it, meaning you have to sound reflective at the very end. How can you connect that summary to something beyond this essay? How can you connect that way in which you're looking at everything you've been talking about to something beyond this essay, meaning move beyond the topic of conversation? The issue for arguments, the issues that they give you for argument essays are often philosophical and often more related to the human condition, related to life. So if they give you safety versus freedom, you can't just end with, and this is why safety is more important than freedom, because sometimes we have to forfeit our own rights so that our collective security can be whatever. That's not that's not good. You have to go beyond your essay. You got to talk about why this matters to you. I mean, you don't say I or me, but you got to talk about why it matters to the human being, right? This is the why. Why have I been reading your essay this entire time? And this should be the last sentence that you write, right? Something really, really impactful. Another way to look at this is through this example right here. I'm going to read the example, then we'll unpack it little by little. So, humorists have a versatile role that enables them to articulate ideas that might be socially unacceptable in other job positions. I mean, that basically summarizes the whole essay. If you've been keeping up with the other videos, right? Humorists have a role in which they can say things that others don't want to hear. I mean, that's what the writer has been saying. Good. Summary of the whole thing, but in a fresh language. Okay. In essence, and here's the punch, right? In essence, they provide a loophole to discussing difficult issues, where in an increasingly polarized world, the only immunity is humor. Wow, that's nice. It's got a nice aftertaste. That last part of the sentence. It's good. But wait, it's so short. Is that a problem? No. No, it's not. Should the conclusions be lengthy? No, not at all. Conclusions on average are smaller than the intro, and the intro is always smaller than the body. That's just the way, in terms of ratio, that's the way it should work. Your conclusion should be fast, it should be powerful, right? No wasted word. Now, we're looking at the conclusion. What we really want to do are two things, right? We want to reflect on the thesis and we want to ponder on the profound ramification of the argument I've been making. So, if I've been talking about safety versus freedom, tap into the theme of safety versus freedom. What is the theme? Perhaps the theme is that the human spirit cannot be contained. That's one theme that you can tap into. Maybe that relates to your essay. I don't know. But you have to reflect on what the thesis said in the intro. So, a good way to begin the conclusion is to go back to the intro, look at what you said at the end of the introduction, look at that thesis, and now think about a way in which you can reflect on that and then ponder beyond it. Now, how do you ponder beyond what you wrote? Well, I like to think of the conclusion as an inverted introduction, meaning the end of your intro, which is your thesis, essentially gives you the reflection you need for the first part of the conclusion. And the end of the conclusion is essentially a thematic take on the topic that you started the introduction with. So I like to go to the topic in the introduction right at the beginning and try to think if the topic is, I don't know, if the topic is ownership, then is the theme perhaps um, value and self worth, right? So that's what I mean. That this is some way in which you can do it. But essentially, the key to a good conclusion lies in an understanding and a reflection of the introduction. So here's a simple outline that you can probably follow just to make it easier. Wrap it up right from the beginning, synthesize, condense, begin the ending, begin the conclusion by ending right away, right? Don't wait till the end to end. Begin the end, right? Then start to escape the essay. That's what I mean by think beyond the prompt, right? You have to escape the essay. Create maybe an extended analogy that allows for thematic mobility from the topic to something familiar that the reader would understand. but you have to escape the essay. You cannot end the essay still talking about the essay, right? You have to relate it to something larger. The argument writer is the rhetorical text writer. What that means is when you're reading the rhetorical text and you're analyzing it, you're saying how amazing it is. Essentially, what that you need to become that when you write the argumentative essay. You have to have metaphors. You have to have figurative language, right? That is rich. You have to have interesting word choice. You have to have shifts in tone. That's what I mean. So you have to also end with something really impactful, especially that last little bit of the sentence should be something worth remembering, right? Here are some conclusion examples that you can probably use. So I'm going to start with this above adequate one, right? So humans care more about safety than they do personal freedom because it is impossible to have the latter without the first. Oh, that's nice. Okay. How can one feel free if they do not first feel safe? That's interesting. Okay. If one spends their life afraid of hiding from others, then are they truly free despite being given complete freedom on paper? People need rules and regulations from their government to keep them safe and guarantee their protection, which is rightfully placed at a higher regard than freedom. It's good, but it's also very theoretical, right? And it has certain memorable qualities to it, and it does relate to the conversation that this writer had been having about freedom in terms of freedom is not real unless safety is there. But the series of rhetorical questions sort of confuse the conversation a little bit, which is why it's only above adequate. Look at the effective one. Polite speech, this is about the value and function of polite speech, is a valuable mechanism that provides for the integration of individuals into society and their overall well being. Well, I mean, this is good, but it also sort of summarizes everything they've been talking about. So, but more than a mechanism, this is good, right? I like it already. Why? Because they say what it is and then they say more than that. That's interesting. This is a signal to the reader I'm about to think really big, right? But more than a mechanism, it is a virtue. For only by having consideration and showing kindness towards others can the human race continue its existence as a social creature. What? That's awesome. That is really, really neat, right? First, establish an idea, a definition, then subvert your definition and redefine your definition. That's cool. It really is. And the signal word here is for only, for, right? For only by this, it's a nice way of signaling the reader. So, the reader that the conclusion is beginning to end. All right, this is a highly effective one. And this one is highly effective because, only in contrast to this one, because this one has a lot of attitude, a lot of personality, a lot of tone. This is important. The reader wants to hear you. If the reader hears you, he understands you. When freedom allows people to freely slaughter others and target our loved ones, we will readily pay to restrict these freedoms and secure our own safety in the future. No sane individual would want these tragedies to occur. This essay assumes a conversation on safety versus freedom, and I think the context was school shootings and things like that. So think about that. This is what they're talking about. No sane individual would want these tragedies to occur. But the best thing we as a community can do past moving past them is adjusting laws to prevent a repeated offense. Our goal shouldn't be to simply adjust after a tragedy. Rather, we should actively assess laws to prevent the first offense. Right? In terms of a conclusion, the reason why this really works is because this writer had a problem solution throughout the argument, right? And every argument has a format: problem solution, compare or contrast, definition, assertion, chronological order. Those are less normal, less common, but they're there too. And this one, and the problem solution is always best when it has a call to action at the end, and he includes it, which is great. It's almost like join me now. It's got a neat quality to it. It really does. So, when thinking about the perfect conclusion, here's really, really what we want to think about, all right? Conclude quickly and effectively. Ended quickly. Here's the first thing: ignore the intro. Seriously. A great conclusion wraps up the whole essay, not just the intro. So, yeah, go back to the intro so you have some idea of what you're doing, but don't just focus on the intro. Go to the bodies as well, especially the end of each body as an indication of what you can include in your conclusion, right? So, Be absolutely sure to address the so what in the conclusion. So what? Why does this matter? Okay, so human beings forfeit their freedoms for the sake of safety. So what? What does it really matter? Well, it matters because how long can we do that until we are never free again? And by doing so, we forgo our entire safety as a human race. What? So what? Go beyond the point, right? Maybe it's something that think about sentences that you said. The really neat way of doing a so what is to go back throughout your essay and look at claims that you made and say, I didn't really explain that claim that well, or I didn't go deep enough in that claim. Okay, I can pick up that claim and explain it more. That would be a reflection of the claim, the so what, the added insight. No more examples, no more evidence, no more, oh, geez, I forgot in the body to say this. If you didn't say, you didn't say it, and you're done, right? The point of a conclusion is to finish. Don't linger at the end. Just finish. All right, that's the end of that. Thank you.